Welcome to Live Like an Acrobat. I'm your host, Shenea Stiletto, two-time world champion in acrobatic gymnastics, USA Gymnastics Hall of Fame member, World Acrobatic Society inductee, and cirque artist. I'm also an advocate for rain. On the Live Like an Acrobat podcast, I discuss acro handstanding in terms of training tips, coaching, and I explore circus and acrobatic gymnastics competitive life as I have lived it from past to current and the exploration into what the future may bring. Each episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast, I bring you insight through my own experiences and sometimes with the addition of a special guest as well. Please subscribe, and please consider making a donation to encourage the continued growth, expansion, and evolution of this podcast. The donation details are in the show notes. On this episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast, I have the absolute pleasure of interviewing actor, dancer, stuntman, motion capture artist, and ally within the trans community, Phillip "Fury" Wainwright. My conversation with Phillip "Fury" Wainwright was riveting, and you'll find that we ventured together into the far reaches of a variety of thought-provoking topics and nuances that intersect with Phillip Fury's very full and enriched life. Phillip Fury is an actor, dancer, stuntman, motion capture artist, advocate, survivor, and ally within the trans community. With love and compassion to the trans community worldwide, I dedicate this episode to the life of Black trans sex worker Alejandra Petition from Colombia, who died after paramedics allegedly refused to take her to a hospital when they learned she was HIV positive. The alleged negligence by medical personnel in the middle of a pandemic has galvanized local advocates who say her death is an X-ray of the situation of abandonment, discrimination, and exclusion that trans sex workers in the city face. Alejandra Petition's death has become a symbol for protest in Bogota. In his own words, it's now o'clock for #WeThePeople. Please welcome to the show, Phillip "Fury" Wainwright. A light-skinned African-American man raised under a white stepmother, Phillip is often confused as being biracial or mixed, Latin, Native American, and more likely to be called uppity or whitewashed than black. Phillip "Fury" Wainwright is the son of a Black Texas State Supreme Court Justice whose birthday is Juneteenth. And because Phillip's birthday is known as May the 4th be with you, friends often joke that the Wainwrights are the chosen ones. Beginning his career in music licensing for business after a neurosocial psychology degree, Phillip Wainwright believes in the symbiotic influence of technology and entertainment on global human culture. Whether the media you intake is word of mouth on CNN or TikTok, Phillip enjoys keeping an eye on the bleeding edge of technology and entertainment, and as a business development consultant, has worked holograms and mixed realities, robotics, consumer electronics, skincare, and also served as the managing director of Andy Stack's Entertainment and Technology 501c3 and for the Alchemy Network. As an entertainer, Phillip has worked for Fox, Netflix, PBS, HULU, NBC, TruTV, Universal Studios, America's Got Talent, Little Big Shots, Relativity Media, and the Mariah Cary Vegas Installment. In the past, Phillip co-founded multiple circus companies, and last but not least, Fury, as performers call him, is also a world swing dance champion. In Phillip's lifetime, he has both thrown celebrity birthday parties, been homeless, beaten, stabbed, and more. He echoes W.E. Du Bois's dogged strength with a smile that never fades. And having been raised in a political climate, Phillip Wainwright has experienced both a top-down and bottom-up view of the world. Please welcome to the show, Phillip Fury Wainwright. Hi, Phillip Fury. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Thanks for having me on as well.
It's a pleasure. I actually read a headline yesterday that instantly made me click with speaking with you today, and I thought it would provide a perfect segue into our conversation. It read, "Righteous Fury and Queer Joy. How New York... How New York's March for Black Trans Lives created a new future for Pride."
Wow. Okay. That's powerful.
Yeah. I usually get a lot of synchronistic things that come into my space. And as soon as I see them, I think, wow, that's exactly perfect for this person, individual topic, segment, everything that I'm going to have in the next day or so. So it was pretty powerful. It was spot on. It was a pleasure to meet you virtually, Phillip, the other day during the Artists Creating Entertainment, or A Speaks panel. Yes, the panel was created by founder Masha Barenboim in an effort to provide voice for Black artists and LGBTQ plus artists as well, to speak to their experiences and visions for reconstruction within the entertainment industry. The panelists were eloquent, powerful, and are provoking change, each in their own way, using their own platforms. I love that it was a space for those within the industry who are not of color or part of the LGBTQ plus community to come with an open mind, open heart, and listen to gain insight into the ongoing struggles for us in the industry and what they can be inspired into action to do. One of the panelists, her name is Adisa Still. She is a Black trans woman who works within the entertainment industry as a model, and her segment was one of my favorites. And it also led to you sharing very valuable information, Phillip, in an effort to assist the trans community, as Adisa asked specifically for calls to action for the trans community that are tangible and immediately effective. Can you please share with the listeners what you shared during A Speaks, and also, as you shared with me, how this organization has impacted your own career in entertainment?
Oh, yes, I can, most definitely. So as Adisa was finishing up, I really felt compelled to share about a man that I was introduced to at a young age, around 17, and an organization that he works with. The man's name is Ronnie Reddick, and he is a choreographer out of the Bay Area. He has been teaching some of the hip-hop and jazz greats for probably the better part of 30 years now. For example, the Jabberwockies grew up taking his class, Gary Kendall included, and I became one of his students, taking a overnight dance intensive at Pepperdine University with him. And after sticking close to him to learn as much as I could about the industry, I discovered that he was the choreographer for an organization and restaurant called AsiaSF. This is also in the Bay Area. And AsiaSF is a family and employer for the trans community. The first time I got to go and see AsiaSF with Ronnie, I was completely blown away by the professionalism, by the I'm from the South, so what I would call Southern hospitality, the nature of the inclusivity that you have there when you walk in. It's an incredible place that everyone goes from all walks of life. You can meet anyone there. And it's supportive. They not only try to find trans persons jobs, they really do try to support them. Ronnie has a way of introducing them to a community that makes them feel royal. And instead of living a life of fear and constant worry, you are instead surrounded by persons who have championed their own lives, and new trans people are able to see how to champion their own lives by being in that community. As they say, this is more of a kind of a business term, or business phrase, but they say that the people you spend your time around are who you are. Your network is your net worth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Once you really dive into people like yourself who are excelling, you see how to excel yourself. And that was mind-blowing for me, because being from Texas, I had little to no interaction with the trans community. And one of the things I also shared the other day was that AsiaSF opened a location in Palm Springs just before the pandemic. And unfortunately, the quarantine did have them shut down as well. But keeping in touch with their Facebook pages, I've been noticing that they are making moves to reopen. So hopefully that is something that the Southern California community will be able to welcome and get introduced to.
It's really, really, really amazing. Can you expand just a little bit more about how this coming into this community assisted you into expanding into the entertainment realm?
Yeah, for sure. So Ronnie Reddick himself, he's a person of so many different walks of life. I grew up in kind of a very protected family, and wanted to be the boy who left home to go to Los Angeles to become a dancer. And that was definitely not my family's pathway for me. And so having found a mentor who was not only so open and connected, that allowed me to slough off a lot of the weight, and I would almost say, anger that you receive and that you develop as a misunderstood male dancer. And I'm a straight male dancer, but it still develops. And so you have all these qualms and questions, and being able to interact and reach out to personally. I still have his phone number in my phone, and I still ask him questions sometimes. A personal mentor who has what seems like all the answers is incredible. It's afforded me jobs, which has allowed me to, avoid the struggling artist persona for so long. It has afforded me personal grounding. I know exactly where I stand on so many different things, and I have friends that I support. Just last week, actually, we are here still in kind of the midst of the pandemic. If someone is listening to this not live, we are in late June of 2020. I had a friend reach out to me that I wanted to go and spend time with, and she told me that she had been sexually assaulted just 3 days before. And I was crushed, because one of the things that I also really try to champion is sexual assault prevention. In college, I co-founded a sexual assault prevention peer education committee. And I would say that my attention to these realms of life are definitely because I have a mentor like Ronnie, and I have been exposed to just worlds that, I'm going to kind of take a shot at my home state again, but persons from Texas don't really interact with all that often. So it's an opening, and it's a grounding, and it's a connective experience. And it's something that I really wish that all persons from all walks of life around the globe could get in touch with. Another thing I like to metaphorize is I wish every person on the planet could work in retail and in the service industry in a restaurant at some point in their life, because it changes the way you view people and interaction. And if you interact with persons that have just a stark difference from yourself, then you suddenly become open. You suddenly become understanding. And that is something that it has done for me. And I've been eternally grateful for it, and really hope to really help them once the SoCal location opens up again.
Oh, wow. Wow. So I love that you're going to be offering your ability to serve in that organization. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember exactly when it was, but maybe back in November when they held auditions for the trans performers, I helped run the auditions and saw people come from all over the country with incredible talents, and some who were at the beginning of their performance career and had literally no experience, but were putting themselves out there in a brand new body, in a brand new feeling, unsure of whether or not they were going to be welcomed, and seeing the connectivity between everyone was amazing, absolutely amazing. So as soon as that opportunity presents itself again, yes, that is something I do want to be a part of.
Wow. That's so great. I love that you're able to incorporate all of your gifts within the community. I mean, that pretty much, it serves so perfectly with you being a dancer and having that background, and then offering all of your insights and talents and gifts in that way. I really love when you're able to utilize those talents and gifts of yourself into different organizations and assist in that way, because sometimes it's in other ways that we're able to assist. But obviously when we're able to assist with the gifts that we've been working on and fine tuning for so long, I find that it's just so enriching, and you just never really know when and where your gifts are going to be able to be used. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I love listening to people's stories, and your story in particular, Phillip, because it really just shows that when you show up for life and you show up with your gifts, whenever people are confused, like, I don't know how to serve, I don't know where to go, I don't know what to do. And it really is, life will find a way. I mean, how could you have known, coming from Texas, coming into a trans community as a straight dancer, as a Black male straight dancer, and then now you're assisting in auditions and helping trans individuals, trans people to come into their own during such a very delicate transition within their lives. Me knowing, having close friends that are trans. So I think that it can never be understated that you never know how all of the gifts that you've been cultivating in your life, not just in the way that you think that they're going to be utilized, and thinking outside of that box that people usually think in terms of, like, the entertainment environment and artists and creatives wanting to find a space for their creativity to land. And if you stay available and, you're in and around beautiful people like your mentor, who has opened you, enlivened you, enlightened you. And so I love that you've showed up and continue to expand due to the influence of your mentor in your life. So thank you for sharing that, Phillip.
Mm-hmm,
Phillip,
of course.
I asked you for a statement reflecting on the state of the world, and you shared this beautiful reflection with me. And thank you for being so thorough with your reflections, and thank you for going and diving deep, as you mentioned. Mm-hmm. You stated a hopeful belief that assumption is the heir of all human folly. Phillip sees that the recent cracks edged in our global pavement created by recent turmoil can be seeds of understanding that birth new trees of life and liberty. Accusation, fear, greed, and mental diseases such as racism can all be traced back to a lack of understanding and trust between people. In this current state in which eyes are open, we have an opportunity, but this opportunity will only result positively with a unified, vigilant, and educated citizenry. However, slowly, surely, our attention is being drawn away from our elections. We are being sapped. Headlines are meant to be focused on for 30 seconds. Critical thinking should come next. How do I stop this from happening? How do I stop the institutionalized injustice? You change the makeup of the institution. Hashtag We the People. Currently, we have one opportunity to do that every 4 years. Hashtag We the People. There is fire in the eyes and hearts of Americans in every city and freedom fighters around the globe. America, as the original stewards of freedom, this fire needs to be channeled like lasers to etch new words into this country's history. The declaration of We the People, we hold these truths. What will come next? The time is now. It is hashtag now o'clock for the young to stand with the old, for the straight to stand with the trans, for the righteous to stand with the disenfranchised, for the haves to stand with the have-nots, the light to stand with the dark. The time is now. Hashtag We the People, because I am the people, you are the people, we are the people, and we do ordain that it's time to change. Hashtag New Words. This is an amazing objective on the State of the Union, Phillip. Please elaborate more on this statement, if you will, and also on how does this reflect your experiences in your career in entertainment as a Black man?
And how do you see your statement implemented into concrete action steps for those in positions of influence and power and those wanting to take their power back?
Well, I guess I should start from the top. In my career as a Black man, as an African American, as a person of color, I hope that I've seen every side of it. The bottom is, of course, and if there's better places to go, then of course I do want to see those as well. But I've been in. Let's start from the auditioning process and getting into the entertainment industry. I've done dance and hip hop, ballet, modern, and jazz. I've been in circus. I'm currently in motion capture and acting. I've been at the beginning of so many different walks of artistry and professionalism, and still am. And one of the things that I do constantly see is that we all have to deal with the nature of casting. And casting can be both well understood and misconstrued. Oftentimes you walk into an audition, and if I am a 5'10" African-American male auditioning to dance behind a 5'2" blonde-headed female singer, chances are there are only going to be 1 or 2 spots for someone who looks like me. And I know that simply because I've been through those experiences so many times. And as we both heard on the call with Ace, this is something that the Black performance community has become well aware of, and is deemed rising to a level where you need near perfection, because you most definitely, personally, for your community and for that performer, cannot be anything less than perfect. On the other hand, there are also times when you are auditioning for somewhere that is looking to champion African Americans. I have also done performances for both persons of color and not persons of color, where the entire cast, by dancing behind them, was ethnic in some way, shape, or form. Not a single Anglo descent person, white person in the cast. And you are vividly aware that this is a form of appropriation, and in that way, you feel like you're being oppressed. It's incredibly frustrating to be performing for an A-lister who has millions upon millions of followers, and you're watching this person sing a song that they did not write, to music that they did not produce, doing the tiniest parts of a dance that they did not choreograph, while 20 Black dancers behind them are giving their all for this other person's career. And that can be frustrating. It is part of the dream for many dancers, and will probably continue to be. But it begs a question once you feel that you have woken up, once you feel that you've been put in a place where the experiences you have had, or someone next door to you, or someone that you know, or maybe it came to you via television in the news, or it came to you via social media on Instagram or TikTok, Facebook. once you've been put face to face with that scenario and someone brings it to your attention, then you begin to have questions and you begin to ask what is right. And so it's seeming as though the entertainment industry is finally beginning to point the same spotlight on everyone else that they originally did on, say, groups like NWA, on groups. I mean, like the movie Straight Outta Compton was a perfect example. These young Black musicians who happened to be from a very gang-torn area. This is another thing that's a passion of mine. I do travel across California doing performances against gang violence, and did lose a cousin of mine this year to gang violence. We are now finally beginning to see questions asked and quotes in movies rethought. Even things that people have posted on Twitter in the 10 years prior are now starting to get examined, and it feels like a blessing. In some ways, we do want change. We do want understanding, and that is, for me, as you quoted, I really do believe that the heir of all human folly is misunderstanding. It's an assumption. It can do horrible, vicious things to a person's mind and soul, especially if you are in the midst of pain. But it's something that the entertainment industry seems to get a pass for, in much the same way that the government often gets a pass for. And personally, I've always felt as though those in positions of influence should feel a responsibility to do something. A quote that has been beaten over the heads of Americans for the last 10 to 15 years and hopefully does not go away thanks to the Marvel series Spider-Man, is that with great power comes great responsibility. However, there are so many people with incredible power in this world who do not seem to exercise that power with incredible responsibility. Black entertainers included, Black politicians included, Asian, Middle Eastern, Laotian, Mexican, Brazilian. I don't care where someone is from. If they have the opportunity to reach 10 million voices by typing something into their phone, then they do have the opportunity to incite change within 30 seconds. An organization like Black Lives Matter, for example, has been building itself for years. And so it now has this voice in these channels. But any one of the celebrities that we love to champion, and I don't like to call out names, but anyone has the opportunity to reach nearly all walks of life simply by making a post, simply by writing a statement or a manifesto. These are persons who have put blood, sweat, and tears for 30 years to get where they've gotten. And that is ultimately to do better for themselves. Can they not also take an hour to write a simple paper and post that? Say, for example, if you just took two names, if you took Will Smith and Mariah Cary, and both of them for a month straight posted the same paragraph on their social media, and it was something about social change, and if that was all their viewers saw for a month straight, then that would catch on, and that would be 20 million people instantly. And then the trickle effects would rifle through this country and others as well. If politicians did that, if doctors and dentists did that, if everyone who truly felt that social change is here and now and the time is now, it's now o'clock, if there were action, wow, we would see change much quicker. And there was someone on that call who said something that I think is also very important that does not get said often enough. I don't remember who it was, but she said that we are all looking for this change to come, but we also have to remember that change takes time and we have to be here in the now. And while we're looking for a day when it feels as if racism is gone, we do have to start with what steps we can actualize now with a scope placed on those actions for the longer zoom. That's something that's always been a tenet for me. Make sure that your scope has a long zoom. And so that's, that is something I wish people would get more in tune with, how much power they have when it comes to voice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How are you, Phillip? How are you using your platforms and your reach? You said that you perform in an effort to prevent gang violence across California. You are a volunteer with the trans organization and assisting there. In what other ways are you using the platform for yourself? And what are ways that you wish that you could use on your own with your own level of influence? Or if your influence was larger and you were that person with that type of reach, is there another way that you would use that influence if you had, for example, more funds? Because that's usually where people feel the most limited, at least in the conversations that I have when they're trying to figure out what can they do. I think at this point, obviously, we have access to social media and there's so many things that we can do for free. But I also, too, can't negate that. I feel like it's the exact same thing with being an artist. You look at the budgets and you most oftentimes think, if I only had the budget, look what I could do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people have constantly commented on things that I've done, and when they've liked them more or when they've liked them less, sometimes it's the simplicity of something that I have done for free that has really captured people and captivated them. So I won't diminish that. But other times when they've really liked it, I remind them, well, I had a really nice budget for that. And
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't pulled in so many different directions. So my soul voice pretty much was able to express itself on a way because I was not so burdened in producing that particular piece of art. I had the capital to relax into what I wanted to create. So what are things that you are currently doing and that you envision or as a visionary would do?
Currently, there are a couple things I'm doing. I am co-producing a music video for an artist who doesn't quite have a lot of reach, but is connected to the HBCUs, the historically Black colleges. And we are trying to put together a very vocal and very visual project that this person has kept as close to them as they possibly could for the better part of 5 years. And the very first time I heard this work, I'm sorry, very loud car outside.
Okay.
For the better part of 5 years, has been writing and speaking on social justice and specifically with the Black community. And he is an African American as well, also from Houston, Texas. And now is definitely the time. It is now o'clock. So we are starting to actualize that. And I do think we are going to have many of the major HBCUs involved so that we can have the word spread as loudly and as far as we can. And then the lyrics to this song are gruesome and they are powerful. They speak true stories. And this is an artist who has been at the top of the entertainment industry for better part of 10 years. But beforehand, worked at a high level in insurance and has seen exactly what happens that the people are not aware of. Man, I really want to drop some lyrics, but I do not have permission in any way, shape, or form to do so.
I won't push you on it.
He's very, very clear and vocal about not sharing until it's time. Another thing that I'm very open about is that I have a knack for arguing. It's not always something that is beneficial, but I was raised by a man who was once called the best arguer in the state of Texas. And that has afforded me an ability to take in and understand other people, take in and understand other people's points of view, and try to see why they are speaking the way that they do, why they feel the way that they do. And so I have been using that lately to challenge the people in positions of influence that I know personally, to do more. And some of them are open and some of them are not. I have had the chance to work with one of the founders of a social media platform that we all use. And I was very close to him for about a year and a half, literally took care of his family. And I have been prodding and goading and urging persons like this to step outside from behind the bubble as people who have lived most definitely in privilege their entire lives. I mean, never having set foot outside of an upper echelon neighborhood even until they went to college. It's sometimes a little bit mind-numbing just how soft some people's lives have been. And specifically, even for my own father, I wish he was doing more. My dad's birthday is June 19th. And as someone who sat in a position of governmental influence in the state of Texas as an African American, if the people even knew that was his birthday, that would incite a level of inspiration that makes people believe that they can achieve too, almost as though that we are ordained for it. We are designed as African Americans for everything that we dream. And and I believe that everything he's done for himself and our family throughout his entire lifetime, could be so quickly shifted into a platform for global good now. He is, of course, a person who has endured endured stature, because stature does come with strange responsibilities. But these persons of said stature are also usually very slow and deliberate. Our current president doesn't seem to be, but that's his decision making.
Don't we wish he was?
That's not how it always seems to be. But there's so many people who could step out tomorrow, grab a microphone, and literally create change, especially persons such as he who understand how it works on the back end. Even when it comes down to localized votes, we are currently living in a system where I don't think the American public trusts the vote. In our last election, we had our vote thrown directly back in our faces. And currently, we are all being told to go vote again. And so for me, being raised under someone who understands legality and government, my first thought is, well, have we fixed the system? Because you're telling me to go and cry to a system that is broken. And I don't know about you, but I don't know how to drive a broken car. How do you replace the engines on a jet without letting the plane fall to the ground? Well, the plane is falling, so we need new engines. And it is now o'clock. And so that is why, truthfully, I believe we are in a state where we need new words and we need new doctrines. We need amendments to documents that are supposed to protect us all. However, it's still legal to lynch someone in this country. It is not legal to murder someone. However, if you look up the definition of lynch, it is an extrajudicial murder, which begs the question why the word lynch even exists. And that is something that the general public needs to have a rude awakening with, and is being hidden. It is the most frightening thing I have seen this year in 2020 is not the coronavirus. It is that the lynching bill has not been in the news at all.
Mm-hmm.
It is not talked about, meaning the powers that be that control media do not want the people thinking about it. And I'm sure that will incite some people to call me conspiracy theorist. Go for it. But
well, I believe it wasn't it. Sorry for me to interrupt. It was
okay.
Rand Paul, right, who did not want to vote against it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is true.
Right. That was recent.
Response was intelligent. His response was intelligent. He was saying he wanted it to be better because there are ways that, it could create horrible repercussions for persons who, even happen to step on someone's foot in a bar and then a bar fight happens. I totally understand what he's trying to say. However, his defense in the long run still wound up allowing lynching to be legal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And 3 days later, 2 gentlemen in South California were found hanging from trees.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
That is the most disgusting thing I have seen in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the coronavirus is dangerous, but welcome everyone else around the world to the life of an African American. That is something that is you are in fear of all the time. I graduated from Texas Tech University. It is in the deepest part of the Bible Belt in America. And my own best friend, David Hayes, still my best friend to this day, probably always will be, was jumped and beaten because at a party in college where he brought me to his fraternity, he's white, he's Anglo-Saxon, he's a white person. One of his brothers came up to him and yelled, "Why did you bring that N-word to this party?" In the middle of the party, everyone heard it. This is a large, large house. These fraternities have quite some money. And David turned around, tried to talk him down, and a fight started. And I was not present. I was outside, and I arrived on the scene to see people pulling them apart and was not even aware that the fight was over me. That because I was there, this division happened, and it continued to cause problems later on. I am quite certain that had the anger not been directed at David in that moment, that a mob of angry, drunk college students would have come directly to me. Mm-hmm. Angry, drunk, racist college students. That same year, I was walking down the street, and I was on my way to work, actually. And I was stopped by the police, thrown up against a building, handcuffed, tossed in the back of a car, and questioned for walking down the street. And this is the reality. And so it's, it is a blessing that the globe is beginning to wake up to things that are occurring daily. Just because you aren't hearing about it doesn't mean it isn't happening. But it is happening in the same way that human trafficking is happening. Human trafficking is happening in this country. And human trafficking is slavery. It is slavery, and it is potentially the worst kind of slavery. hopefully with the Epstein situation, that will blow the lid off of that and people will wake up to that too. But that is why I try to stay hopeful, and why I say the time is now for new words to create new documents, because once something has been positively institutionalized, then it is harder for it to hide in the shadows.
That's powerful. Phillip, who inspires you the most in your life, and how do you keep your peace within the midst of all that you go through, all that you've been through, and what you could potentially go through in the future, as we as Black people know that even with the amount of outcry, with the amount of outrage, the beautiful efforts that we're seeing people engage in all over the world on behalf of Black people all over the world, specifically right now, obviously in America, but we know that our reach is worldwide and that we start here, but that this needs to transcend America. And as somebody who's in the world all the time, as I am, I have, a vastly different dynamics of racism coming to me in so many different varieties and forms, traveling throughout the world. So we do know that even in the midst of this, that racism is not going to stop today, that it's not going to stop tomorrow, and it's probably not even going to stop by next year, or we're hoping to some extent within our lifetimes. So with that, how do you keep your peace? How do you maintain your peace? And who inspires you the most in your life?
Personally, in my life, I think the most inspiring figure I have is a man whose name is Juan, but he goes by TJ Storm. If you are a fan of action entertainment, this is a person who is a 7-time World Martial Arts Hall of Famer. He is the Iron Man suit. He is Godzilla. He is the Predator from the Predator movies and the Alien movies. He's Colossus from Deadpool. He's so many things. He keeps his peace in a way that you would expect of something you heard from old Asian mythology. It's incredible. However, because this person operates in entertainment in the way that he does, he laughs with the same happiness that a child does. And it is incredible. This person can walk into a room, and if everyone there were a murderer who attacked him, he could dismantle all of them quickly. but he feels like a giant teddy bear. And that is an incredibly inspiring thing for me. And he also has many, many messages that he's trying to share that he has gone through and overcome in his time, because he and I have almost the exact same skin tone. I'm pretty light skinned, and he has been people have assumed that he has been everything under the sun. And so we have conversations about what it is like to be a person of color in the entertainment industry. And so, yeah, personally, I think that is probably the most inspiring person in my life currently. I keep my peace, I think, mostly by helping others keep theirs. I, in my last 2 years of life, went through an incredible amount of adversity and hit rock bottom and bounced back, luckily. But in the midst of that, lost all of my self-confidence. I was living out of my car. I was jumped twice in the same month and stabbed. The person I was in love with told me that my emotions didn't matter. I had been wholly pulled out of myself and didn't know what to do. I got kicked out of a house by a SWAT team because I found out that my landlords were involved in who knows what and wanted in 3 different countries. I mean, it was a was wild, absolutely wild. And going through that time, I did feel, both fortunately and unfortunately, like my tag name, the entertainment industry calls me Fury, because as a young breakdancer, I was rather wild, in movement, not in personality. But I started to feel furious. I was angry all the time, and at everything, everyone. I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't want to meditate. I stopped meditating, which is something I taught myself to do in high school. And the first time after going through all of my adversity that a friend came to me and began sharing their problems, the opportunity to help someone instantly reminded me what it feels like to be helped. And there was an incredible calm that came over me. And I did start meditating again. And that's something that I'm doing slowly, working back into my life currently. But it's having gone through that and living out of my car for probably 3 or 4 months at a time. I became very isolated, and reconnecting with those who fill me up was probably what allowed me to find my peace again. It allowed me to remove the red haze that overcame my own visionary lenses, and allowed me to see what I want, and not what I don't want. Because when you are wrapped in the maelstrom of your own fury, all you see is what you don't want, and you project it everywhere. You project it on those who love you. You project it on those who are trying to give you things. But once you are connected with those who feel you, and you have the opportunity to fill someone else, to do good for someone else, you do connect with them, and you connect with others who are doing good for them. And that network has legs. The 2 people there connect with 4, the 4 people there connect with 8, then 16, and on and on and on. And the connective tissue allows all of the energies that all persons are feeling to be shared. The peace, the inspiration, as W.E.B. Du Bois says, the dogged energy that does not die in the African American community in this country. I have been lucky to have been introduced to some persons like Lamont Good, a cyber yoga, who was on the call the other day. He is one of my best friends, and in times of need, I have called him absolutely bawling my eyes out. And his sense of calm has been training wheels on my tricycle.
Oh, I love that.
Oh man. So yeah, community allowed me to find my peace again. And that's something I'm incredibly grateful for. I have a piece of paper pinned to my wall that's just to my left with 30 names on it. And those are the 30 names that I feel closest to in the world. And I'm constantly updating it. If a friend says something that I realize, oh, I did not know that about you, and that you feel that way, which has happened recently, then I reassess my circle. And that's something that we have to do. But community is definitely what allows me to feel at peace again. And it's almost as though sheerly knowing that the community is there, that I can be alone and inside of my own silence again. Something that I hope everyone can relate to is, a breakup, a hard and difficult emotional breakup. My first one was going to college at age 18, and Pink had just come out with a song that has the line, "The silence scares me because it screams the truth."
Mm.
And man, that tore me up at age 18.
Mm.
And it did a year and a half ago as well. I could not sit in my own silence, but today I rather enjoy sitting in my own silence. It's a beautiful thing to be able to go inside. TJ Storm, my motion capture mentor, has a line, "If you cannot go outside, go inside." And that was something that he posted at the beginning of the quarantine lockdown. If you cannot go outside, go inside.
Mm. That's so lovely. Thank you. Phillip, what advice would you give to Black artists looking for their grounding within the entertainment industry? You are an actor, breakdancer, you do stunts, you're a motion capture artist, you have done so many things. You've had a wonderfully illustrious career. What is your advice within navigating this space? And for those that are just starting out, and even for those that are in the midst of it, because we know, even as you mentioned, we need often tune-ups within our own journey. And I oftentimes remind people of that, where nobody is coasting here. No one has found I would say, the one formula that encompasses all levels and all capacities of struggle, because different things come up. And so even for myself, I'm a meditator. I've been a meditator for 14 years, and you've been a devout meditator for a very long time. You went in and out with your practice. That's normal as well, from my experience in the meditation community for so long. And so, I go and I seek out people for tune-ups, for reasserting my grounding within my life and within my experiences, when something even more radical than I could have ever predicted. Because as we know, and what I've heard before said about meditation, is that you're not meditating for life to be predictable. And that was one of the most powerful things that I ever heard as a meditator, because I think for a while I was in that space where I thought, okay, I'm going to become this very peaceful person that can foretell every single little thing that's going to happen to me. That's bad. That's good. And I'm going to be able to handle that. And that's what meditation does. It just makes me, I can see into the future, basically. And I learned very quickly, and actually not very quickly, that hit me really hard at a very deep point in being a meditator. I wouldn't say that dissolved out of me within the first year or two. That was sometime later on that I found myself coming from that space where you understand and you realize, okay, that is not working. That does not work for this. And I know that you have a background, because you got your degree in neurosocial psychology. And for me, in terms of psychological development and therapies, what I feel the most is lacking in any of those fields is that people do not have dynamicism within psychological care. It's very earth-set, and it's very one-dimensional. And as somebody who's a sexual assault survivor as myself, and who is a survivor of the USA gymnastics system, and
congratulations.
Thank you. And I really appreciate you for supporting and being an ally of survivors. I'm an advocate for RAIN, and without allies, we are nothing, because it literally takes a village to rebuild those pieces. But I have found, because I've had to do so much therapy within my life and dealing with the different traumas that have come at me because of different levels of racism existing within a very difficult system as we do in terms of entertainment. Yes, it's a very enlivening experience. It's a very rich environment. It's creative. There's people from all over. It can be magical, but we also know that we have our feet on the ground, and that the reality is that it is also incredibly brutal, especially because there's so few Black people, even still within entertainment. You are still the exception and not the rule when you come into these environments. So again, it comes down to having dynamic care in terms of maintaining your own mental health, because I feel like that is like the crux, and you've beautifully, conveyed that within everything that you just said. So even elaborating, expanding even more on that, what do you think is a lovely, I would say, blueprint or just a lovely shareable of how the Black experience will be felt within your experience in the entertainment industry? If people have told you, or you don't think that you are going to have the Black experience within the entertainment realm, as me being a circus performer, people usually take out the Black experience from my circus experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I find that it is very difficult to remind even the new Black people that are coming into that environment that your Black experience will also follow you into that niche environment.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. I was once on silks and heard someone in the audience say, "I've never seen a Black person do silks," and it rattled. I stopped the performance for like a full second. I was like out of my head and was like, "Wait, what? Like, why did you do that? Like, I'm a human. Like, what on earth compelled?" I was like, "Oh my goodness."
Wow.
I'm sorry. I think I just interrupted you.
And there you go.
Let's see. So for as far as giving advice goes, there's a man out of India. I think his name is Sadhguru.
Yes.
He said something that rifled through me the instant I heard it. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's why I do what I do." He said, "Follow your compulsions because they will become platforms for you to stand on." And as a child, I was a kid who imitated Michael and Janet Jackson every time I saw them. I watched all 3 original Star Wars movies every Friday at my mother's house, starting at exactly 6 p.m. so they would end at exactly midnight. I knew every line and could imitate every voice except for Darth Vader's to the T, because I was not a mature male yet. And today I am a dancer who fulfills the roles of video games and movies and these other things. And it's like, wow, had I just realized and dedicated from that point forward, because I was not allowed to be in the arts as a child, anywhere near them, my pathway would have been so clear, so absolutely clear. And everything that I find myself obsessed with, new technologies. I have, at one point in my life, I was selling holograms, which sounds ridiculous, but it's true. Following your compulsions because they will become the platforms that you stand on. And as you said, knowing that sometimes the thing you love or the thing you're doing doesn't fit right now, doesn't fit this particular situation. But if you hang in there, you will figure it out. I'm trying to find a metaphor that everyone, I mean, walking, even a child walking. If I were to compare trying to find and champion your own career to a child walking, yes, this child has examples, their parents, siblings, family members, other people that they see to imitate. And so do we. We have mentors, we have social media, we have heroes. But chances are your hero is not going to show up at your front doorstep with a manual exactly how to do what they did. the only way a child learns how to walk is by getting in there and doing it and figuring it out. The child falls down, but there's never a point where the child goes, "Oh, that hurt. Well, I'm done. I'm done." That never happens. That happens to no person walking around today. Did they fall down as a toddler and go, "Well, I'm never getting up"? That never happened, ever. So as far as sheerly trying to get into your own career, follow your compulsions and understand that sometimes you will just have to get in there and feel it out, because it may not work for right this second. While I was a dancer who had not taken martial arts and had not taken any acting, I couldn't have booked any motion capture gigs because they need more than dancers. It would not have worked. It just would not have worked. I would have gone to every audition and walked out with the ever so popular thank you, and that would have been it. So I had to learn that there were things that needed to be adjusted. So I fell and I got back up. As far as the Black experience, I think that the young Black entertainers today, I do have a potentially biased perspective. I think they need to understand what social media is doing and not what it provides them. When I began auditioning in the entertainment industry, social media had no effect on your professionalism. No one was checking your MySpace to see if you were posting the correct things or keeping up with your training. And last year, my manager asked me if I had a TikTok, and it blew my mind. It blew my mind that actually even happened. I was like, wow. This is a very old gentleman. I think the Black entertainers need to not play in to stereotypes that are being played, and quite literally follow their own compulsions. Whatever it is that you are compelled to do, however it is you are compelled to speak, however it is you are compelled to walk, do that. Don't do what everyone else is trying to show. Stand on the platforms that are what you really want, and you will get where you want to go. You are going to encounter racism. I don't care what year you're listening to this in. You are going to encounter racism. The reason is everyone only knows their own personal traumas, and everyone's worst memory is their own worst memory. I don't know what your worst memory is. I don't. And you may not know what mine is. And because of that, I don't know exactly how you feel. And I don't know exactly what words are going to come from those emotions. So when two people meet for the first time and have opposing viewpoints, you cannot demand that someone see eye to eye with you. So you are going to experience a certain adversity that grinds against your skin, and it pulls at you and makes you want to not only drop your guard, but throw everything to the wind and become fury. But that is not the way. Stand higher than them, on top of your own platforms, and you will continue to go the direction you want to go. The best examples I can give are the heroes and the entertainers you do not hear about in the news, because those are the people who have championed their careers and then did not give in to the person on the street who was yelling at them. TMZ, for example. And as we go down this road, and we're talking now kind of about mental composure, I do agree with you wholeheartedly that care and retuning is also essential. My own personality has been described in so many different ways. I am a very happy-go-lucky person who speaks with near perfect grammar because it was quite literally beaten into me as a kid. But I have been described as someone with endless patience, and I have been described as someone with no patience. I have at times surrounded myself with only dancers, and I at times have surrounded myself with only business persons. And I have found both that the doing both does not serve me, because I think along the pathways of all of my compulsions. As I look to my right and not my left, I have a list of passions written on a dry erase board, and I have to follow all of them. If I don't follow one of them, I start to feel like I'm cheating myself, and that does not work. In the same way that I manage my passions, we have to manage our social circle. We have to manage the way that we rebuild ourselves. In the last 2 years, I've been to what I'll say is 2.5 therapists, and the 2 persons I went to who actually have a degree in therapy, I walked out of both of their doors immediately. The first person was not in a mental state to be giving therapy himself, and the second person listened to me for about 15 minutes, wrote me a recommendation for medication, and said, "I'll see you next week." And I never went back. I was like, "You don't intend to help me at all. You intend to make money off of me." And that was frightening. I didn't tell the person that I had a degree in psychology. They didn't need to know. But it opened my eyes to the idea that, oh, yes, that's right. I must provide myself with an entire gamut, a wide variety of healing. And healing is something that, will have to come soon for this country. Will have to come soon. That I don't actually have a projection for. I'm not quite sure how that would happen. But as you said, dynamic care, I think, is definitely what is necessary for persons of all walks of life. Another frightening thing I've heard is that persons of Asian descent, and especially Chinese descent, have been getting beaten and slandered in the streets of America because coronavirus, supposedly emanates from Wuhan, China. And that is a mind-numbing thought, that something that is a disease of carrion, a disease of rats, has been blamed with a human genetic trail. Like, what? Like, these people are all of the same country, and you suddenly just... Sorry, I started to get mad. It literally makes me mad.
Yeah.
Oof.
Of course. Yes. And I feel for the Asian American community, and I feel for just Asians in general, and during this time as well. As someone myself, I was not too long ago living in China. So I was living in Macau.
Oh,
and
wow.
I was working and performing there for quite a while. So I feel for them so much, and just how deep and how wide the levels of racism go. And when people are in fear and they want to help, they want to hold someone accountable and responsible, just how low and to what negative depths they will go to is maddening. It's enraging. Absolutely. And, I feel just as outraged as you do on behalf of the entire Asian community. And that encompasses all Asians, because unfortunately they get lopped into one category themselves. And they are a incredibly diverse people. And so it's very sad, and it's very heartbreaking to see the treatment of the Asian community, and I continue to stand with them. I know that you do, and all of my friends, obviously, that are Asian, and hoping that they continue to be safe in this world and in America as we go through this pandemic, and we look towards a brighter future for all of us that are being oppressed in so many different ways throughout this time and space in history. So on that note, in terms of that, because I feel like this is the basis of all things, for my last question, Phillip, do you think that love wins in the end in all things?
That love wins in the end. I think that love can win in the end. I think that there is nothing more powerful than the rising tide that raises all ships. And that can manifest itself in a variety of ways. We are all very familiar with, both in our lives, in the media, and in stories around the world, of what happens when love does not win. But an amazing example is something that I was told just earlier today. I was actually taking a martial arts class from TJ Storm, and a person that I brought to him to take class was telling of how he once avoided a bar fight because his friend was doing something dumb, and he stepped in the way and said, "Hey, I'm sorry, my friend was being so idiotic. Let me buy you a beer." Some huge man was about to beat the living daylights out of them both. And he said, "Hey, let me buy you a beer," talked him down. And after talking him down, and they got halfway through that first beer, he found out that this 6'7", looked like he used to play football, giant, ogre of a person, had just lost one of his children. His wife had left him, and he was angry at the world. His wife had left him earlier that day to make things worse. So this person was incredibly angry and not sure what to do with themselves in that moment. And simply talking to this person edged out all of the negative possibilities that can happen in that situation. And I was blown away. I was like, "Josh, that sounds like something out of a fairy tale. Like, this really happened?" And he was like, "Yeah, we had another 3 beers, and the guy cried, and he hugged me and left the bar." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "That sounds like something out of a movie." He was like, "I know, it's unreal." Yes, I truthfully do believe that love can win in the end. And we, in the same way that I did, have to be able to remove the red from our own lenses in order to get there. This country and the entire globe is going through a period where we are all being urged to speak out. And this is a positive. This is a positive. But it also means that sometimes we feel like we're fighting to be heard even more so than before. And I would like to stress, if I could, I would like to stress to everyone on the planet to remember that everyone's worst traumas are their own worst traumas. So someone else is not going to see your point of view immediately. And we have to be open enough to see someone else and hear someone else and be willing to try to experience what they have experienced, try to feel the feelings that they still have from whatever that worst trauma was. Because if we cannot, we won't understand why it is that it needs to be changed. If you and I had not had the experiences we had, we would not connect over sexual assault. Whereas someone who has never had an experience with sexual assault at all, and I have been sexual assaulted myself.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. still bewildering. Sometimes people believe it is something you did. And I don't speak just towards sexual assault on this, but I speak everywhere. I stopped dating someone last year because she said that she thinks all Black people are just angry. Angry at stuff that didn't even happen to them, but happened before them. And I almost flew off the handle. I almost lost it on the spot. Like, I was like, excuse me? You come from the richest Italian family I've ever heard of. You do not even get to go there. Yeah. We have to be open to hearing it. Yes. Truth.
400 years is a long time, and yes, we are still mad for that too. We are also, yes, angry for them as well. That's the point. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is in our DNA. Yes, it is.
Quite literally.
Quite literally.
Yeah. But being open enough to hearing everyone else's trauma is what I think is required for the globe to heal.
Wow. Yes, agreed. Very much agreed. And I honor your struggle. I honor your journey, Phillip, and thank you for sharing that with me, revealing your experience of being assaulted, sexually assaulted. Again, I'm very sorry that happened to you. As a fellow survivor, I stand with you. I bless you in your continued journey and healing through that, because as I've been through that for many years now, I know that it's something that does not just go away, and it becomes a part of your life, and it becomes a part of your soul in some ways. It shows up within your beingness. So I stand with you. And I thank you so much, Phillip, for coming onto the show and for sharing your resourceful spirit. Thank you for your journey within this industry with all of its twists and turns and biases and injustice and challenges and triumphs. I appreciate you for showing up when it was the most impossible thing to do, as you've been through some incredible challenges and you shouldered on. And that you've made a conscious effort to be a light onto others as well. And seeing that as you've illuminated them, they've illuminated you right back. And I'm very grateful for you continuing to show up for the world, showing up as a voice, showing up as a Black voice, and showing up as the beautiful, brilliant man, actor, dancer, stuntman, motion capture artist, activist, a theologian, philosopher, therapist.
Time to start a new list on my dry erase board. Here we go.
You can add them all. Please do. Thank you again for sharing your energy with my show, with the listeners, with the podcast, and with the world. Because again, we understand that we have this one precious life, this one precious existence. And we know it's not about just these superficial things. It's about going deep, and that this is your life. Every single moment that you spend in every single capacity is a moment that you don't get back in your life. But that is a moment, I hope, spent of worthiness and devotion, like you said, to things that you are compulsed by and that bring you joy and that help you to keep on ensuring that love wins in all things in the end. Mm-hmm. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having me, and thank you for being a guiding light. I mean, your own journey has been incredible. I was doing some preliminary research, and you're an amazing human being. I'm I'm grateful to have had the opportunity. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much, Phillip. I appreciate that in all ways. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Live Like an Acrobat. I'm your host, Shenea Stiletto, and until next time, please stay safe, stay healthy, and stay peaceful.